Hi, this is Pete Madsen for Acoustic Guitar, and I'm here to talk about my lesson on Bottleneck-Slide. If you've tried slide guitar and you're a little frustrated with the sound you're getting, don't worry, there are solutions, and I'm here to give you some ideas to talk about how to get a good sound. Keep in mind that some people like to actually buy a cheaper guitar and set it up specifically for slide guitar, Bottleneck-Slide. Which means they might take a guitar and raise the strings up a little bit, which you can do by putting a shim underneath the saddle of the bridge. And then your slide will not have the tendency to knock into the fretboard, which is one thing you may have experienced as you're starting out on slide. There's also a few things to keep in mind about slide and different materials. The slide I'm holding right here is a ceramic slide. You could also choose a metal slide. This is a thin metal slide. These are sometimes nice because they're thin and they're easier to direct on the string. There's a brass slide. You might notice this one too has a slightly different shape. It's tapered down towards the bottom. Some people like a different shaped slide rather than a slide it just straight up and down. This one's made of brass, of course. And then there is a glass slide. These are the most popular materials: brass, steel, ceramic, and glass. There are certainly other materials that you could use. For acoustic guitar, I would recommend that you use something with some mass that has a little bit of weight to it. This is different from electric slide guitar, where you get the amplifier to help you out with the sustain and so forth. But with Bottleneck-Slide on acoustic, you get more sound, more sustain if you have a slide with a little bit of heft, a little bit of mass to it. So I talked about setup and tuning. I talked about materials and size. Let's talk about string damping or dampening. When we drag the slide across the string, you sometimes get these unwanted noises on the opposite side of the slide. So what I do is I use my first finger to gently touch the string behind the slide, and I actually hold my hand like so. I'm kind of cupping my hand with my fingers resting on top of my slide, and then my first finger will rest gently on the string. And that gets rid of a lot of the unwanted sounds that we hear associated with slide guitar. Also, you'll notice I'm holding my slide rather low. If I'm playing the first string, I keep my slide down and tilt it slightly out away from the other strings. As I play the inner strings, I'll tilt the slide in. And also, there's times when I want to play a full chord with my slide. That's one of the things to consider too when you're selecting a slide, is if you're going to play in an open tuning. I'm in an open G tuning right now, and I'll tell you in just a second how to get to open G. But I play a lot of fingerstyle. If I'm playing in an open tuning, I want to have a slide that can cover all the strings. If you're not really concerned about playing full chords with your slide, or if you're playing in standard tuning, you might want to choose a shorter slide that'll cover just a couple of strings and stay out of the way. So I'm in open G tuning, and the notes are D, G, D, G, B, and D. So that is open G tuning. So here's example 1. It's a minor pentatonic scale played on the first string. The thing to keep in mind as you move your slide up to the note you're directing it to is you want to be right at the fret wire. My slide lines up right with the wire, not in between, like you would if you were fretting with your finger. You notice if you put your finger in that 5th fret, I can move it around anywhere I want and I get the same sound. With the slide, I get 4 or 5 different microtones, right, just within that 1 fret. So I really want to be directing right at the fret. Now let me play exercise 1 again. Okay, so a lot of slide playing happens on the first string, so that's a good place to start. You notice I'm keeping my slide very low, slightly tilted out away from the fretboard, avoiding the other strings. In example 2, I'm going to play the 3rd string. So now I'm going to dip my slide in, so I'm going to tilt it in to the 3rd string and play a minor pentatonic scale on the 3rd string. So you can either dip your slide in, you could also cover the other strings if you're touching the 2nd and 3rd string, for instance, but you have your damping finger down, you shouldn't get any extra sounds. Now there are times obviously when you want to play more than 1 string, a double stop or a triple stop. So in example 3, I'm going to be playing a double stop. Playing the 2nd and 1st string and go from the 10th to the 12th fret. Very reminiscent of kind of Robert Johnson kind of sound. Example 4, 3 strings. Okay, now let's look at some licks. The 12th fret is a great place to play a lot of licks, especially over a G chord. So let me play this lick. Notice I'm moving between the 10th and the 12th fret. I end up on the 3rd string there. In example 6, we're going to play a very short, quick slide and then a longer slide, just so that you get the idea that you can play, you know, all your slide notes shouldn't all sound the same, that you should try playing different ways of expressing the note. So I'm going to slide from the 3rd to the 8th fret on the 1st string. This is example 6, the first part of example 6. Notice I slide very quickly and I stop the sound. I can do that either with, well, I'm probably doing it with just my palm of my hand, but I'm just stopping the sound of the slide. So one thing you'll want to practice as you get some licks is being able to stop on a dime. Get right up to that 8th fret, right at the fret wire, and stop it. Another way of expressing that same slide is to elongate the slide. And then I threw some vibrato in there too. Quick word about vibrato. As I come up to the 8th fret, I land right on the fret wire, and then I draw the slide backwards, sort of flat of the note. I don't go beyond the 8th fret. That just sounds kind of rubber bandy, but so think about that as you express vibrato. pulling away from the note with your slide. So example 7. This is a 12-bar solo. Let me just quickly play a rhythm background that you could use for playing the solo against. Easy to play a nice shuffle rhythm in open G tuning. It's like this. Okay, so example 7 is a solo with the slide that would work over that rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that solo, there's a couple things I'd like to talk about just as far as what I focused on. For the first phrase, was targeting this G note here at the 5th fret. And if I'm in the key of G, that's a good note to target. Also, the second part of that phrase, I finish off on an open G note on the 3rd string. So that phrase really sort of bookends 2 Gs. And as I continue, I'm going to use the 3rd string quite a bit because it is a G. I can do all sorts of use that open string as a pedal tone. So the next 2 bars are a technique that a lot of slide players use when we're changing chords, like for instance for a C chord. I'm at the 5th fret, I'm barring, I can just use my slide to follow that chord. So I'm just using my slide at the 5th fret playing a double stop. When I come back to G, I'm going to do a little lick that goes from the 12th to the 15th fret and add some vibrato. And then back to the 12th fret. One thing you can do when you're creating licks over the G chord is think of the 12th fret as home base. And then you can work 2 frets below that and 3 frets above that. Okay. And the last 4 bars, we're moving from the D chord to the C chord, back to the G, and back to the D. So I just work my lick around the 7th fret. That's my D chord. But notice, I end up down on the 5th fret, which sets me up to play a lick over the C chord. And then a classic turnaround. Using the open 3rd string and descending down on the 4th string. You can use this same turnaround lick in standard tuning because the strings are tuned the same way. The 4th and 3rd string are the same in standard tuning as they are in open G. And then finally, back up to the 7th fret, and you get your D chord there. Playing slide in open G tuning or open D tuning is another good choice. Is probably the best way to get into playing slide guitar because you can focus your slide over these particular frets and use them as home bases. 12th fret for the G, 5th fret for the C, and 7th fret for the D. And to just play around in that area. You go a little bit below, go a little bit above. Okay, so try that in experimenting. Remember, you can set your guitar up. You can experiment with different types of slides, different sizes, different materials. But keep in mind, just certain things. You want to damp the strings. You want to just cover the strings that you're playing and go from there. Thank you very much.